Okay, in this next tutorial for demonstration number 4, we're going to look at how to take all 4 of your view images from Blender that you outputted, and we're going to learn how to put them together in a grid and label that grid inside of a Photoshop document. Now, this particular file that we're creating in Photoshop is going to serve 2 purposes. First, it will represent a 4-angle view of your work. It's a good representation of a 3D model to be able to see it from multiple sides. That particular page that we design in Photoshop will first be printed, and we will use that for presentation day. And then the second part is that that same file that we generate in Photoshop will also be uploaded into Augment later for use as the tracking image that we will be able to scan with the mobile app to pull up your 3D model from. So let's start by opening up Photoshop and opening a new canvas. So we're going to go to File, New, and we're going to rename the document. Again, when you're renaming the document, use the same system that we use, which is our first name, last name, the term and the year, and then the project number. And follow all that by titling it Quad View. Now below that we're going to change up the dimensions. These dimensions should be set according to the orientation of the files you exported from Blender or your still images. So if you made horizontal still images from Blender, then your document format in Photoshop should also be horizontal. Likewise, if you made verticals from Blender, then this document should be vertical. We will make an 8.5 by 11. So my images were horizontal, so my longest dimension is going to be 11 inches, and my height will be 8.5. Resolution, you can put that at 200 or 300, whichever is preferable to you. It will still be fine for our output file. We'll say OK. And we'll launch in our new document. And Photoshop's loading here for a second, so I apologize for that little delay that we're experiencing with that. The next step that we're going to work with, though, in Photoshop is going to be dropping in rulers into our scene and then pulling out guides to mark off equally sized rectangular areas on the canvas. This will allow us to drop in each of our 4-angle views into the canvas perfectly. Alright, so now what we're going to do to drop in our rulers, we'll go up to the View option from the top menu in Photoshop and go down to Rulers. Now that we have them turned on, there's a ruler across the top and the left side of our screen. We're going to start off by pulling down the guideline from the top ruler, and we're going to pull it down until it comes to just about 4.5 inches. Now if you hold down the shift key as you drag, it will do incremental jumps, but what it will allow us to do is drop the ruler right at the midpoint, which is at 4.25 inches from this angle, and then we'll drop in a ruler from the other side, which for 11 inches should be 5.5 inches exactly, and then we'll let that one go. Alright, now we're ready to bring in our images from Blender. So we'll go up to File, and we're going to use this option here called Place Embedded. Place Embedded just allows you to drop in a file from outside and place it directly in the design and make it a part of the Photoshop file without having to drag and drop from multiple canvases. And I'm going to go and locate my file inside my Blender Stills folder, and I'm going to start with the front view. Select it, hit Place. When it drops it in, it's most likely going to be too large for the canvas if you're working at 200 ppi for the resolution, so we need to make it fit up into one of these quadrants that we designed with the guides. So first off, to keep my image from getting distorted when I rescale, I'm going to change my width and height, and I'm going to lock it together with this little chain link icon. And then I'm going to drag from one of the corners and push the image up into its respective corner region. Again, it doesn't hurt to let it overlap the blue outline that goes around it just a little bit. It shouldn't look like this, where it's poked way up inside this quadrant over here. So please don't leave a giant white border. We want it to look like kind of a seamless background that the imagery is placed on. Once you have it positioned right, you can hit return to finalize the placement. Now let's go ahead and insert our other images. Again, we'll go to Place, Embedded. And I'm going to just go through my list. There's no particular order that these need to be dropped onto your canvas or positioned. I'm going to go ahead and lock the ratio together again at the top. Drag from a corner. Again, it is important that you drag from a corner and not from one of the sides. If you drag from a side, it may not lock the ratios together correctly. You go up, and I'm going to place embed another image. Lock my ratios. And do my last one, 3/4 view. And I will also lock the ratios together for that one and drag the opposite corner towards the corner I want it to go in. Hit return to set it. And now we got our images in place. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to add a label to each one of these to know which view is which, in order for people to understand them when they look at them. So we're going to go over to our toolbar on the left and grab the Type tool, the T. And before we start typing away in here, we're going to change some settings at the top menu bar for Photoshop. First off, change the point size to 14 point. And change the color to something more contrasty up against this gray background. We're going to use white. Now, I'm going to click right around here. I'm looking for an open space around my image that's consistent. So pick either like a top or a bottom location, usually on the left side of your image area for each image. So I'm going to pick this corner and use the same corner for all images. So this is my front. Type front, and then I'm going to exit the type tool by going to another tool and then reinitiate it. It's important that you do that, otherwise the type tool will have problems. It doesn't exit the tool very well. This is my left view, right, and then one last one. This is going to be the 3/4 view. So I'm going to type out 3/4. All right. Now we finished designing it. Now we can go ahead and save our JPEG file from the unit. So we'll go to File, Save As, and everything should be fine. Again, you can save it straight to your Blender Stills folder. And the format, we want to change it up to JPEG. We'll hit Save. On the JPEG options screen, make sure the quality slider right here is set to large file all the way over to the right. We want the largest possible file it will give us with the least amount of image compression or reduction. Click OK. And always, always, always check your work to make sure it saves the file correctly. So here's my folder. I'm going to open it up, go inside, and I'm just going to hit spacebar on this file on a Mac to preview the output image, and it looks good. First thing to check whenever you output it is always make sure that you don't have white border lines in between your imagery. If you see white borders, it's because you did not resize your images correctly in Photoshop on your grid, and you will likely need to go back in and go through your images and make sure that they are covering the grid plane correctly. And you can always use transform to go back and change them up, and that's Command T to reactivate transform for a specific image or layer you're selected on. Alright, And that will conclude this part of the Demo 4 exercise on creating your 4-angle view or quad view of your model. Be sure to keep this file handy and where you can locate it. Again, these instructions are also included on Blackboard as part of the exercise 4 instructions.